Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff show. We have a lot of great books coming on FOC this Monday. That would be September 8th, and a lot of fun things. Now, for some of you keen-eyed viewers, you might have seen originally we were going to have Jason Fabok on to talk about Rook Exodus. Unfortunately, due to some family emergencies, he is unavailable. But we have an absolutely phenomenal guest from Devil's Due Publishing that I'll be introducing shortly, along with all of the other amazing comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday. So stay tuned, because it's going to get good.
Hi everyone, I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you.
All right, and today we're going to be talking about comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, September 8th. And there are 2 places you can ideally see all of that. I have my wonderful co-host, Kyle, the producer of this awesome show here. How are you doing this morning, Kyle?
I'm good, man. I'm excited that Josh is here. You know, we've been talking about getting Josh on now for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And it just sort of kind of fell into place. And shout out to Josh Blaylock for answering his phone, unlike most people we call. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we introduce our wonderful host, I want to remind everyone, if you guys are looking to see the comics on Final Order Cutoff, there are 2 ideal websites to do this. If you're after things like Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Distillery, Boom Studios, and Ignition, you're going to want to go to Penguin Random House website, prhcomics.com. It is a website you're seeing on screen right now, and that will have all the various comics on Final Order Cutoff. You can see right there when you click on this little thing stating FOC September 8th, you'll be brought to a wonderful little section where you'll see all of the amazing comics that Penguin Random House has on Final Order Cutoff. Meanwhile, if you are a fan of DC, Image, Oni, Dynamite, and more, you're going to want to check out lunardistribution.com for all the items on FOC there. You'll be introduced to a basic website like this, lunardistribution.com. Scroll on down to upcoming FOC. Make sure you're on the right date. And you will see everything on FOC from Lunar. Clearly, I had these things prepped at later positions, so you got to see a little bit more ahead of it. But you can always follow along at home or check everything out after the show. That said, we have an amazing guest today, and I think I want to dive directly into our interview. He is a man who has been writing, drawing, and publishing comics for decades. I am honored to host Josh Blaylock.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Josh, how you doing?
I'm great.
Awesome.
I want that breakfast that's in your intro.
You know, I would, and Kyle ate them anyway. Is the crazy part of that. He strives for us. So, Josh, you have a lot going on right now, but one of the big ones is you have a brand new comic on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, Disavowed.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Disavowed.
It is a love letter to obviously like all things like 80s action, kind of like G.I. Joe meets The Boys. It's about in the 1980s, there's a group called the United Five that was formed to stop an esoteric cult turned terrorist that went by the name of Komodo, and all of the things that ensued, and how there's these ramifications now in the present day, and how there's ties between the 80s, the 90s, and now that like bring the child of one of the former team members into the whole thing.
And I mean, it sounds a lot like G.I. Joe, which you're rather familiar with.
A little bit. Yeah, if you like I mean, just on it, it's like a spin off of that. Like, I mean, I haven't touched a Joe book in like, I don't know, man, 14 years or so, 15 years. And just had this idea kicking around for quite a while. And just, just wanted to do it. It's something, it's like, it's fun. There's no stress. It's like got all the nostalgia frills without any of the continuity, I mean, this is like anything you do with like Watchmen, Invincible, like Uncanny Valley, even like, you clearly know who those cartoon characters are. And then you've got stuff like, I mean, you've got Farrell with like the Disney vibes. You get Local Man is like a deconstruction of the 90s. Radiant Black and what Kyle's done with the Massive Verse. And, that is the Disavowed.
Yeah. Now, to give people context on your experience with the Joeverse before we dive into this, you wrote the very infamous Image Comics and Devil's Due Publishing G.I. Joe run back in the early 2000s. But I can say, having read Disavowed #1, well, it starts out feeling very Joe. It does not end that way remotely.
I can't wait for people to see it and, see the meat of the story once they get past the some of the fun like gimmick of it all.
So, in your reference to The Boys, I mean, this is a mature title. This is not the G.I. Joe comic you want to give to kids. They can stick with the Skybound stuff. Can you talk about what the approach was for you and your artist Popman when it came to taking this iconic 1980s style of action and bringing it to a much more modern and mature level?
Yeah, well, that's kind of like, I guess let's just set that, let's clarify that, where it's like that's like sort of an easy way to communicate to people. Hey, this is like what you love about a lot of this classic, nostalgia, but it's going to be crazy. It's not for kids. And it's a great marketing hook, in some ways it's, just as crazy. Some ways maybe a little less. There's probably less exploding like naughty bits in the Disavowed, but it's I'm sorry, what I forgot the initial question. I went off the bit.
So how did you you and Pop approach taking such a mature turn on such a classic 80s action?
Oh yeah, just I mean, in some ways it's fun to amp up and have like the gratuity of it all, but then at the same time, you can do things with characters that in any kind of like parody like this, you can do things with characters that you never would be able to do with them if you were actually working on one of those titles, like, so yeah, we just just fun. They're all going into battle and maybe they're doing bumps and, and they're all jacked up, and some of the good guys aren't exactly necessarily good guys, and they might be a little crazy, and that's why they're so good at what they do. The bad guys are like, I guess, kind of think of like Cobra, Hydra, by way of like Scientology. the But then they have like abilities and stuff that can't quite be like explained, and the government is interested in all of that. So also like the United Five, this is a team formed of like people made up the different branches of the armed forces, but they're actually like privatized to the level where there's no FOIA requests. They can sort of do things like off the books that don't have to be acknowledged by the official government. So it starts off like very fun. Like I want to be able to just throw you right into the battle, and it's just as much of a love letter to all of like crazy 80s action stuff we grew up with. Like if you're from this era, you had a weird mix of like crazy like military commando heroes and ninja movies that you got at the video rental store every week, and you were watching those in between when like you're watching your cartoons and reading your comics. So it's wanted to take I guess there was no real like clearly defined approach on how we did it. I think there's certain aesthetics and stuff that I wanted to make sure that we got. It's a very fine line too, like when you're like satirizing something or doing a new spin on something like this, you also like want to make sure that you are making it your own. And it's sort of like, if you put in a story, like, like it's like the classic movie picture, like, oh, it's this meets this. Like when you put in a classic character, like, if when you first read The Boys and you saw Homelander, like, okay, that's Superman. Like, obviously that's Superman. Oh, obviously that's Aquaman. Obviously Omni-Man is this, and stretchy Martian guy is the parody of this. Yeah, so you and then that kind of like lets you jump into the story faster. Like it's like a storytelling tool that then you're waiting to see like, okay, but what's really going to happen now? Like what's going to like keep me on my toes? But at the same time, like I hope people can like pick this up and just have fun with it and get a lot of those fun nostalgia vibes without having to like keep up with all kinds of other books, until we grow to the point where we have like several different titles and can be putting out too much for people to keep up with. But one other thing that I'm having fun with is kind of doing like a Mandela effect. Like this always existed. Like, just you might not remember it, or you might remember it differently. But so as far as I'm treating it outside of the story itself, just for fun, like supplementary content and marketing and everything, there was a United Five cartoon and toy line and different comics. There was an iteration in the 2000s, and there's like fan bases that are all opinionated about it. Like there's letter column in the back, which you might have seen because you got a sneak peek. That's gonna lend itself to a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
That right there is Peaches. That's an amazing Pop Mon cover right there. That's Peaches and the sugar glider, Stormy. Stormy was actually the pet of Blue Sky, who's like the jetpack guy. And you have to have at least like one animal that's inappropriately going into combat for some reason.
I mean, it was the 80s. It was a different time. Nowadays, we'd never let our sugar gliders in the war. But I mean, and you have a lot of great characters. I mean, I love our Snake Eye style in the way of Mantis. You have some incredible, like there's a very Baroness style tone.
That is Fatale. Fatale is part of a legacy of like former royalty, like third generation. Sort of like they're the generation that like the first generation makes the money, makes the money, spends the money, and then the other one, or the third generation spends the money and loses the fortune. Like they're kind of like this. She and her partner Highland are like kind of part of this legacy, but they like both spend most of their life in Los Angeles, and their family sort of like pivoted into like pharmaceuticals and we meet all these characters in the 80s. So that's kind of like going back to it. And I apologize, just getting started this morning and finishing my coffee. I had so jumping into the interview, I'm like collecting a lot of my like thoughts here on how to explain this. So
We threw this on.
yeah. I'm rusty this morning. So one way of tackling something like this is to try to modernize it and try to bring it in, into this area. Like you take a cartoon show like this from the 80s and you're trying to modernize it, but if there's been large gaps of time, or if those characters were such a part of their time and so iconically defined by the era, it becomes more and more challenging. The larger the gaps are since they've been like brought back. And I kind of took the other approach, like, fuck that, just like lean into it. Just this is in the 80s and I'm embracing all of the absurdity of so much of it. But then in the modern era, that's part of the story too. It feels very much more like the real world. So things are, it's like you're hearing these crazy stories of this thing that happened back in the day, and it was even wilder than you believed. Why is there guys running around with AK-47s shooting laser guns? and then this is the scene where I don't think this is spoiling too much. This is kind of the setup. This kid in like the late 90s finds a pistol of his late father, who was rumored to be part of some special military team, and it's kind of a special gun that does some crazy stuff. So the
page on that, you get to see that is not a traditional handgun.
Yeah, this is like we released this in the Ash Can, like San Diego, like 2024, and been working on the series for a while, and that was always like a big part of the setup for it. Kind of like pulls you into that whole universe. So it's almost like a very Spielbergian, like, well, one way it's a messed up, like two American kids in the backyard with a gun that they shouldn't have. And then at the same time, there's a little bit of magic to it, that pulls you into this crazy world of the 80s. Because the next scene you see is this double page spread of like, what is this big climactic battle between these two forces many years prior. And then we kind of get pieces of what happened then and what goes down, and then a lot of twists and turns. And then you go back to like seeing what this kid has to do with it and what happens to him growing up, and carries us into the present day.
Yeah. And I got to say that Snake Eyes and Mantis there, oof, that is the hint of the violence you're going to get. And that's just the start of it.
That's a fun little warm up. Yeah, that's the Mantis. We've got Chef, Starbird. There's Blue Sky and Stormy. Gadzooks, Demolitions Expert. Apple's the Doctor. Archive, he's like a records guy specialist. Glam is a fun character. I'll be talking more about later. I think that's going to be a fun one. Yeah. Yellowstone's kind of like my like wild cowboy dude / pilot, who's also like, he's an indigenous to the Southwest Shoshone tribe. So yeah, I don't need to like read everything to people, but Dane the Great, that's our leader in the beginning. The Wall, he's kind of got the nickname already, Gung Hogan. But just a big dude. Yeah, so I don't know, kind of like want to, hopefully the visuals speak for themselves, and I do my job with the story and suck people in.
Oh, yeah, and I will say, for anybody who's on the fence on this, pick up issue 1. I promise you, pick up issue 1. It hits you over the head 4 separate times with jaw-dropping moments where you just can't believe it. Like, I thought, the first time I got hit with that moment where my jaw went to the floor And I'm like, wow, I didn't see that coming. And then you managed to hit me 3 more times before the issue ends. It is insane.
That was one of the technical parts of the creative process, really, too. Since you were asking about like how we approached it, we did have discussions where I went back to Pop, like, because he actually is used to drawing for more mainstream titles, and I was like, no, this is definitely like this is an indie comics like crazy title. We need to keep in mind like how wild we can get and not hold back, because that's part of the fun of it. And I was like, there has to be the moments in every issue where after you read it, I want there to be moments where if you're in the store and you're reading it, or you're working at the store reading it, and you get to that page, you've got to turn to someone and go, holy shit, like, you've got to read this. Like, that's what we have to do. You got to get people talking and plus I know there's a lot of people that like probably are just looking at it like thinking like it's just a little bit of a satire or something and not its own thing. I think by the time they get through the first issue, they'll have a different outlook there.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like, no one's really done these, play off these archetypes. Like, you wouldn't even blink if it was another superhero thing where you're like, well, clearly these are the Justice League archetypes. And now it's, we've kind of skipped ahead to the 90s deconstruction, with awesome books like Local Man, and Joe Casey just did one too. And then there's so many things with every other cartoon genre you can think of. Even like He-Man has been done like, riffed on this way. So yeah, we're ready to have some fun with this.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing. I think it is a must for any fan, whether you're a fan of G.I. Joe or things like The Boys. If you thought the opening that Garth Ennis brought with The Boys was a jaw-dropping moment at the very end, that's somewhere around, page 16 or 17 of Disavowed, and you get several more. So this is definitely getting your bang for your buck. Some amazing covers. Like, who are some of the incredible cover artists you have for issue number 1?
Yeah, the one was really exciting was Michael Golden. Like, getting him on board to do this book was very, very fulfilling. Dave Johnson, I just called him up. He's worked with us many times before. He was all about it. He did an awesome cover of the main, the leader of the bad guys, Lord Anon. This is Travis Hemel, that did that Boys parody. I've been a champion of Travis's for many years now. He's worked with me on a ton of stuff. He's great. So yeah, he knocked out that cover for us. Tim Seeley did this homage to an old J. Scott Campbell cover that was like the first issue of the Devil's Due G.I. Joe series. And then Steve Kurth, who was the artist on the original Joe series, actually did an amazing double-page spread, which in the retail market is being broken up into issues 1 and 2. You'll be able to connect those covers later. Yeah, there's the Dave Johnson one. And then that's Pop Mon, our main interior artist. That's
the
all
1 in
him.
50, I believe.
Yeah, you know what? I forget what all the ratios were. Massive is handling all that, which is nice to have a publisher doing all that stuff for once.
This one was the 1 in 15 variant, so not every store might get it, but I highly recommend reaching out to your local comic shop because that is a hot cover. And if you want it, see if it's available and how much it'll cost.
And then the most rare one's going to be the Sveta should be in a cover.
This one that's coming up is the 1 in 30 ratio variant. Again, reach out to your local comic shop, see if they're going to get it. I hope they are. It is worth getting 30 copies. But yeah, I mean, how did you manage to get her? I mean, she is a top name in cover artist right now.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be talking about some other stuff with her soon too. Massive actually hooked that one up because she's doing a lot of work with them on Pen Apocalypse.
Yeah,
and I think some other books too. So yeah, that was just good timing.
All right, so give me you're the retailer. You're at the register. Somebody comes up and they're like, "Hey, I want something new." Give us the quick pitch. How are you selling someone on Disavowed?
It's it's a crazy, wild take on, like kind of a G.I. Joe meets The Boys, but it actually takes place in the 80s and in the present day. So you find out that there is that all of these stories were true about this secret team back in the day that wasn't supposed to exist. And it's like a poorly kept secret, of all, like, it's been online, it's been rumored about, there's conspiracy theories about it. And then we're dealing with ramifications from it today.
Awesome. Now, Disavowed isn't the only thing that's getting everyone's attention right now from you, Josh. We're in the 16th anniversary of Mercy Sparks, and everyone seems to be talking about it. Ooh, what do you have there?
Yeah, we got Mercy Sparks Daddy Issues is in stores right now, which is a 3-issue miniseries. Issue 1 just debuted. This is the Joel Herrera cover. We just got the posters in. Yeah, Joel is another amazing guy. It's been working with me forever, and done so many great covers for us. So Mercy Sparks is in the 16th year. There's 2 major omnibus collections. There's a 48-page one-shot after that. There's a new spinoff, Club Nephilim, which is going to actually be picking up again. We had an issue 0 debut last year. And it's about a devil girl who works for Heaven hunting rogue angels. Like, that's the setup for Mercy. She's a sort of plucked by Heaven from the underworld and dropped onto Earth disguised as a human, and she's like given orders to be their fixer, doing their, or as the first miniseries said, it was like Heaven's dirty work. And it starts out kind of fun and tongue-in-cheek. She doesn't want to do the job. She drinks too much, smokes too much, and just gets her orders and then wants to go about her day. Gets a check in the mail every 2 weeks from Heaven that's just like enough to get by. And then as time goes on, peel back the layers and reveal more about this larger universe. And by the end of the second omnibus, it ends up being this whole like epic story between heaven and hell, and this person caught in between, and her mother plays a big part in a lot of like the string pulling, and that all culminates in the end of that second omnibus, which was issue 14 of the ongoing series, which also had some miniseries and stuff. So the easiest way to read is just those collections. And then
they're currently available at Lunar Distribution right now. So if your local retailer doesn't have it on the shelf, they can order it for you.
Yeah, we just shipped a bunch to them. They should have them in stock. And we definitely, like, we've always keep those in print. And then there was the series hasn't come out like that consistently over the years. So, but it reads chronologically. It reads very consistently. And then there was a break where the book didn't go away for 5 years, but the character ghosted everyone for like 5 years and comes back with the one shot, No More Angels Left to Fall, and kind of reset the whole new status quo for the book. And then Daddy Issues now is sort of dealing with like, it's a little fun double entendre, but also it really is dealing with like this crazy trauma from like both her 2 father figures, her real father who's this demon, and her, like, the guy that kind of raised her, who's this crazy unqualified like ancient Sumerian biker dude. We're getting into that now, and planning a lot more Mercy stuff coming up into 2026. So I hope to be revealing some more stuff there, because finally, like, getting out of my own way, getting more Mercy out. This is like one thing people are just always asking for. Like, if you will just make this, we will buy it. So.
Yeah, issue 1 of Daddy Issues just hit August 13th. Do we have an idea when we can expect issue number 2?
Yeah, it's so it's quarterly right now, so it's that'll be in October.
Awesome.
Actually, I think the FOC was just pushed back slightly. It might be like the first week of November, but it's basically quarterly, and we're working on issue 3 stuff now too. Awesome. And I'm, for the record, for the Disavowed, I'm writing like number 5 and 4 right now. Pop is like wrapping up issue 3, where we're as ahead as we can be on that book too.
Sounds good. So I imagine the new relationship Devil's Due has with Massive, you guys are getting things a little bit quicker because it's not as much weight on your shoulders, right?
Yeah. We definitely like we've been talking about this book forever because the Ash King came out, and then it kind of with the Diamond distribution situation and all that stuff, it just kind of sat for like a year. So I don't know if that was like good or bad, for the hype. We could have had a big hit and then not gotten any money. So that would, we kind of dodged that bullet. And then we had a lot of promo that we did in the very beginning too. And then it kind of some time went by. So it's nice to be able to like hopefully just see that pay off, that we've had someone else helping promote us, forever. There was a really successful Kickstarter campaign too that they managed. They got some extra like buzz for it going on, and then it's really nice to just be able to turn in the pages and see the files all come back with all of the extra like production content done. Man, because even when I used to, like 20 years ago, when I used to publish with Image, they don't do all that stuff. At least back then, they didn't. We still turned in most of the files like ready to go, like almost ready to go to press. And this is a little bit more of that lift being taken off of our shoulders, which is great.
It's awesome. So in a first, I just got a live text from somebody asking me to ask you, with Mercy Sparks, is there any news on potential movie or television?
We're actually so it was with MGM. The short answer is always yes. But it actually ran its whole course and expired with MGM. Like and now it's going back out on the market again. So we're still working with Assemble Media, who are the producers that have been its champions since like, really, man, we've been working with them for like 8 years now, I think. They're the ones that got it set up a couple different times, got the spec screenplays made in the beginning, and I liked every screenplay I got. It was like a very pleasant experience. Usually so much stuff has changed, and I thought everything was great. So yeah, we've had some amazing talent attached to it that I'm not even really allowed to talk about. There's been like a couple different actresses that kind of blew my mind. We had them even looking at it. And then yeah, we're like waiting and see. We're talking about possible like TV, which I'm actually even more excited about, like the TV concept. Because once you read the book, you see like how well this would lend itself to television. Where also like there's stuff that's just stuff circles back around. That's why you just have to stay in this industry for a long time. Like there's a lot of heat on Drafted right now, which if people look that up, that was a book we did in like 2007, and it was with like New Line Cinema, and then that company kind of folded, and then it was with another company for a while. It was with Lorenzo de Bonaventura and Michael DeLuca for a while, like, and it recently was with Paramount for TV, and then Paramount got like kind of folded up under CBS, and now there's people talking about it again, like something might happen there. Like there's the Disavowed's already got some cool like interest, and yeah, so it's funny enough, you just have to keep putting the comic books out and keep focus on the medium that like this is, and focus on those stories, and then kind of let that stuff sort itself out. So but yeah, Mercy's been begging to be put onto the screen for a long time now, and we've got the right people behind it that really know what they're doing and care about the project too. So
well, and that's that fun reminder that you can order the comics now. You don't have to wait. Reach out to your local comic shop. Lunar Distribution is going to have you set on all of that. Disavowed finalizes orders this Monday, September 8th. So make sure you reach out ASAP and get those Mercy Sparks trades. Josh, before we let you go, where can people find you to discover more about everything you're working on online?
devilsdo.net, as well as I'm on Twitter, as whenever I do go on that cesspool at Josh Blaylock. Instagram is Blaylock Comics, and also on X it's also Devil's Due. But yeah, go to our website and sign up for our email list. Like you should see a pop-up even come up when you go there. That's our best way to get the updates. Email blast will always send you links directly to stuff.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh. I cannot wait for everyone to read Disavowed so I can talk about some of the crazy things that happen in that book with people. And we'll hopefully see you again soon.
We're seeing a good reaction because I just jumped in this interview spontaneously. You just got the issue like at the last second to read at the same time. So we both came in like, yeah.
It's going to be awesome. All right.
Thanks for having me, man.
Josh. Cheers. All right, guys. We have a lot to talk about with all the crazy comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday. So I think we've started off over at Penguin Random House. So I'm going to pop it over to prhcomics.com for you guys to join along. So remember, you go to prhcomics.com, click on the FOC link right here. That will bring you over to this list. I always recommend alphabetizing it. It just makes life easier. And we got a lot of great things starting off. The big one is IDW's return to 30 Days of Night with the Falling Sun. Now, this has been quite the topical book with everything going on. We don't have Steve Niles or Ben Templesmith, but Steve Niles has signed off as he drags the one man I think that could appropriately continue 30 Days of Night, Rodney Barnes. Are you excited about this book, Kyle?
Well, if you're going to bring back something as quintessential as 30 Days of Night, you have to bring it back with a writer who is a modern horror master. And that's what they've done with Rodney Barnes. When you look at the things he's done with Zombie Love Studios and Blackula and some of that stuff, he's really taking these existing known horror commodities and putting a spin on them that is very Hollywood, is very interesting, and is very 2025. So I think this is a great Rodney and Chris on this book is a great pairing. I know, again, there are some hard feelings out there by people who maybe wish they were working on it and aren't, or people who have over the years had reason to have hard feelings about this. But if you're a 30 Days of Night fan, if you're an old school horror fan, if you saw that movie and went, I want to read these comics, and then read those comics, this is going to hit you right where you live.
And I love the concept on this. This actually works in a real-time sense that the comic takes place 20 years after the events of the first 30 Days of Night. No one talks about the Vampire Night or Vampire Month, arguably, that happened back then. And most people don't even believe it is truly real. It is just a myth, a local urban legend in the town.
Right, this kind of feels like a more serious, more horrific, where Ghostbusters Afterlife picked up.
Yeah.
People don't really remember what happened in New York in the 80s. Well, it happened. We have to remember our past to deal with our present, and that's where this book picks up.
Absolutely. So a lot of great covers available on that. I want to point out you're going to see a lot of DC trade paperbacks on PRH Comics, just because Penguin Random House also distributes DC's collected editions, not their single issues. And they will place the orders well before Lunar distribution. Some will match up, some won't. You can always let your local comic shop know if for any reason they choose to order their DC collections from Penguin Random House. They'll appreciate your order before that final order cutoff. But for the most part, most shops are probably going through Lunar distribution, so don't worry too much. We'll talk about them when they appear at Lunar. But I want to point out The Adventures of Lumen N. If you missed issue number 1 this week, it was an incredible read. I recommend going into it. If you're a fan of X-Men, X-Men is getting temporarily relaunched during the Age of Revelation as Amazing X-Men. Same creative team of Jed MacKay and Muhammad Asrar, but it takes place years in the future after Revelation has taken over the world. This is our Age of Apocalypse style rehash with the anniversary of Age of Apocalypse. We're going to have all of the X titles and even some other titles temporarily put on hiatus and be replaced with these alternate futures. Of course, I made the mistake of showing you guys the incentive variant. So ignore that or reach out to your local comic shop if you specifically want this cover, because it might not be available at every shop. But X-Men fans, if you want to continue on the Age of Revelations, this is the book to do it. Amazing X-Men. And we have a few more that we'll be talking on that, because things like Phoenix will become binary. Stephanie Phillips still writing it, but now we are not dealing with the traditional Jean Grey Phoenix. We are dealing with this darker future as she is binary. So again, X years in the future for the Age of Revelation. Now,
And I'm just going to say, Binary is the only book from this series I'm committing to buy.
really, I was going to argue that I figured you were really against the Age of Revelation, considering how Marvel handled it, but you're in for binary.
I am, but I'm very pro Stephanie Phillips.
Yes, she
Like-
is always brilliant writing.
Again, it's one of those, oh, I'm real angry. I really want to boo this entire thing. But Stephanie Phillips is writing Binary? Okay, I guess I got to buy that one.
Yeah, and I do want to stress, this is always the important one of why you want to reach out to your local comic shop, because comic shops are going to have a hard time knowing, do we just convert everyone on X-Men to Amazing X-Men? Do we convert everyone on Uncanny X-Men to Unbreakable X-Men? Because some people are going to want it, some people are not. I'm going to be that person who just says, yeah, just give me everything. Kyle's going to be very selective. And
I'm the person that says, no, don't make me look at it.
Yeah. There might even be an additional person who wasn't reading Uncanny or the traditional X-Men title, but says, this is my place to hop on Unbreakable X-Men, Amazing X-Men, Binary. So let your local comic shop know so they can make sure that the orders are appropriate to guarantee you the things you want. It's the goal of this show.
Yeah.
We have Arcana Royale, the trade paperback on FOC. We had Cullen Bunn last week talking this up. Amazing, amazing story of gambling in a paranormal, life or death, the multiverse matters kind of way. Scott Snyder and Tom Hardy's Arcbound wrapping up the first half of its series with issue number 6.
That book, Arcbound, was so much better than it had any right to be. Scott Snyder's a great writer, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, Tom Hardy writing a comic, I'm not sure how I feel about this. Oh my God, was that book good?
Meanwhile, an out there one you wouldn't expect, Before You Go Extinct, is a very cute manga dealing with, well, a lot that what the cover is already hinting at. A very cute story about changes in the world and how that affects things. I think this is a really, really cool one. You know, like, just everything about this looks delightful. You know, not just for your traditional manga fans. Then one we have to talk about, there's going to be an era of Stitch right now. The Marvel books currently have Stitch invading all of their covers. Dynamite has a Stitch ongoing series we'll be talking a little bit more about later today. But if you want something interesting for your younger readers, the people who are loving Dogman, Cat Kid, Captain Underpants, you're going to want Agent Stitch. It is a all ages comic series aimed at younger readers, done as Stitch is a detective of all things. And of course, you get that wonderful nod to Sherlock Holmes. Instead of a study in scarlet, it's a study in slime. 3 of these incredible Disney Agent Stitch graphic novels are on FOC this week for release later this year, because everyone loves Stitch right now. Fun, goofy thing that is the perfect thing this holiday season or just back to school time to hand to the young reader in your life or the big Lilo and Stitch fan.
It's super true. You know, when Dynamite's Lilo and Stitch hit, I kind of had a little bit of a hot take that I wanted, I put out there, that I didn't want Lilo and Stitch to just be Ohana Means Family over and over and over again, which is what the first issue of that Greg Pak series did with Dynamite. Ever since that day, and I'm not saying it was my fault because these books were written before I said that, every Stitch book that has come out, regardless of publisher since then, has gotten better and better and better and better. It really is the summer of Stitch.
Yeah. Now let's talk about prose novels that evolved into comics. Obviously, for those of you guys who are obsessed with the Dune film trilogy that is currently releasing, waiting for the 3rd movie to come out, here's the perfect book for you. If you haven't been reading the Dune Houses trilogy, they were a series of novels that came out in the 2000s by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. I thought they were an amazing piece that brought so much more life and intrigue to the characters in Frank Herbert's original Dune novels. And Boom Studios has led to them being adapted into comic form, which has been wonderful. Dune House Harkonnen is the second in the trilogy, and it now has a trade paperback. The comics are already out. The hardcovers are available now, but now you can get the trade paperback if you have been falling behind. This is the chance to catch up as we learn more in the lead up to how the Atreides family ended up on Arrakis, how the Harkonnens lost their stranglehold over the spice-bearing planet, and everything that had happened to the Emperor to put him into that situation. But another prose novel seeing comic adaptation, or perhaps comic spin-off, is The Fallbacks. The Fallbacks was a very popular Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms novel that is now getting more continuation with its first appearance in comics in Dungeons and Dragons The Fallbacks series. A very goofy group of adventurers in a very Dungeons and Dragons style campaign, now going on missions in comic form as Greg Pak, who we just mentioned was writing Lilo and Stitch, takes over. Greg Pak is going to get mentioned a lot today, I feel.
Yeah, it's a good Greg Pak week. If you're a fan of Greg Pak, he's got a lot of work out this week.
Yeah. But if you love things like Critical Role or Adventure, I can never remember the D&D Adventures comic and podcast. But if you love any of these dice rolling D20 items, this is a great book for you. Another thing we get to talk about a lot is Dungeons and Dragons on today's show.
Check out Dimension 20 over on dropout.tv. My friends are, I have some friends on the newest season. And shout out to Brennan Lee Mulligan, the host of that show, for being the DM for Campaign 4 for Critical Role. So Dungeons and Dragons also having a moment 50 years after the Red Book or whatever it is.
There it is. A lot of great covers on this Dungeons and Dragons too. Marguerite Sauvage, Zuri, Dan Panosian, Steven Segovia. Like, it's gonna be hard to choose. I feel I might end up with multiple copies of this book. Just like I might end up with multiple copies of Event Horizon. Oh my God, did you read Event Horizon Dark Descent yet, Kyle?
I did not.
Oh, it is a prequel to the infamous movie, and it does such a great job setting up the story of Event Horizon's first maiden voyage that would obviously be a precursor to the dark and twisted cult classic film. If you missed out on issue number 1, it seems to be sold out everywhere. A second printing is coming out with a brand new cover. This is a effed up comic, but man, is it good. So
yeah, Event Horizon was one of those things that missed me for whatever reason. And then, like, the books come out and everybody's like, the books are so good. You should read them. And I just have never gotten around to reading them, and I really should.
Now, you're excited about good old-fashioned Korean spirit, right?
I am.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. I got to throw it out to the comments before I go into this. I love that I got compared to the spitting image of Ming the Merciless. My lifelong dream is finally there. I have yet to get the full bald head, but I appreciate that, Polar Knights. There it is. Ah, I like it. And then, by the way, Greg, yes, if you ever need Dune facts, I am literally, I have it tattooed on me. But let's talk good old fashioned Korean spirit a little bit more. This is a really fun one because it's the creative team of Banned Book Club, which was a great graphic novel on its own. But this tells the story in the 1980s of a young couple going for a lunar moon event with their grandma and friends. Unfortunately, everyone seems to be plotting with their own mysterious, selfish reason. Grandma sounds like she might be trying to sacrifice our protagonist's friends. Our protagonist accidentally said the three most meaningful words she could have said to her significant other, and he's not returning the favor yet. And then her friends are all plotting on other things behind her back. What could be happening? This is an interesting thing because it is not only just a great dramatic graphic novel on those facts alone, but it is filled with all sorts of great Korean culture that is going to make it an exciting one that anyone can enjoy. So I am hoping that this graphic novel lands as well as the concept sets it up for. So as we've been talking Boom, I want to go back in time. One of my favorite Boom books goes back to one of its early, Heroes Squared, by legendary creators Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. This was one of the earliest Boom graphic or comic series, and it tells the story of a young guy who is just, let's be honest, a bit of a loser. He was not somebody who was accomplishing anything, only to find out in an alternate universe he was their equivalent of Superman. He was a superhero, and as that superhero version of him ends up in his universe, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with there's an alternate version of you that is better in every single way? Hero Squared was fun. It had multiple volumes. I loved every step of it. And I had nearly forgotten how amazing it was. I am so excited Boom is bringing this back so we can all enjoy this and this can discover new readers as the late, great Keith Giffen's work lives on. So that is an exciting one. A lot of great. Yeah, he's always a brilliant writer. Yeah, I don't know why that did. So next up, we have Hello Darkness, a continuing wonderful horror anthology from Boom that we love because it has great creators like Garth Ennis, James Tynion the Fourth, and R.L. Stein. So ever so wonderfully, in a similar looking logo design, Hello Halloween is an incredible R.L. Stein standalone story, part of his Graveyard Club. There we go. I got it to load this time. It lists as part of Hello Darkness here, but this is going to be brand new stories by R.L. Stein set in the Graveyard Club. So if you like that, definitely worth checking out. A lot of brilliant covers. Oh my God, these covers, all of them, amazing. But I'm all for mature R.L. Stein horror. As somebody who grew up with Goosebumps, who gives his children the Goosebumps graphic novels, I love that I have some, you know, I'm not saying this is absolutely mature, but some darker R.L. Stein that grows up with me as I was becoming the mercy. Yeah, yeah. So, speaking of that, Imperial War brings back another writer I love to death. Dan Abnett is joining Jonathan Hickman in a one shot dealing with the Super Scroll. Imperial has been amazing issue after issue. I've loved every one of these one shots so far. Dan Abnett dealing with the Super Scroll, like, it was back in the day with him and Keith Giffen on Annihilation, has me hyped. So, all sorts of fun to be had there. But the next big thing from Marvel that we got to talk about is also something that didn't properly load. Laura Kinney, Sabretooth. Replacing Laura Kinney, Wolverine, we have X years in the future, Laura Kinney wielding this Sabretooth outfit. Back to the bone claws based on some of the covers I've seen. I don't know what Erica Schultz has in mind for this, but I have been loving every one of the Wolverine issues that she's been handling. I cannot wait to see how Laura takes this twist and becomes a perhaps much more villainous and feral beast in the Age of Revelation. One that I can't tell what it's replacing, but I'm certain it is up there. Age of Revelations is getting a long shot series. And this is Gary Dugan along with Jonathan Hickman. So that's a great, powerful team. With some of my least favorite Marvel characters. This is where we lose followers right here. You're going to get Wonder Man, Hellcat, Bishop, Rhino, and Kraven on a team as Mojo controls them in a battle royale kill all show where he says you can vote with your dollars as to who wins. I don't like any of the characters involved, but I want to read this comic. Yeah. I am hoping so too, but it's where you and your vote, arguably, if we're talking Mojo style, matters. Letting your local comic shop know that you want the books means that you will get the books. Because if you don't, it's up in the air when ordering the way that this is being required by Marvel. Thankfully, we have FOC, so you guys can get a look at it. Because I hate to say, if it wasn't for Final Order Cutoff, I don't know that I'd have gone after long shots. I like my Patsy Walker to a degree, but I am not a Wonder Man fan. I could care less about Rhino any day of the week. And Craven just isn't the same since, his long night with Jan DeMatteis. So why would I want this book? Well, Gary Dugan, Jonathan Hickman, brilliant writers. We have a great artist on there. Mojo always makes things interesting. Like this has all the right hooks to make me care about something I don't feel I should care about. So I'm going to give it a shot. And like you are too, Kyle. Yeah. Meanwhile, Marvel continuing all these bangers and hits. Marvel Knights Punisher, not to be confused with the Red Band Punisher, which is also out. We have the incredible Jimmy Palmiotti and Dan Panosian on this book. Dan Panosian isn't just doing the A cover, he's doing the interiors. All of those panels on all of those pages are going to be popping Dan Panosian artwork at the height of his career, if you ask me. And this spins out of the Marvel Knights world to come, so you've already seen a hint of that Punisher and Christopher Priest series. Jimmy Palmiotti back on Marvel Knights is exciting because he's one of the founders of the Marvel Knights program over 25 years ago. This is going to be awesome. I don't know if you've seen Dan Panosian on social media hinting at any of the artwork for this book. It's mature. It looks awesome. I'm I'm not even a Frank Castle fan, but I want to read this book. Yeah. Absolutely. And then for those who've been waiting, Christopher Priest's third issue of Marvel Knights: The World to Come, also on FOC this week. So, Kyle, did you get a chance to see the Marvel Zombie trailer yet? Well, I had to set it up because I think it's going to get a lot of people excited, especially for this upcoming book, Marvel Black, White, and Blood and Guts. Yes, they dropped and twice in the same title. At least one of them is an ampersand. But the Blood and Guts of Marvel means we're going to have some crazy zombie violence. You even have Blade on the cover by that awesome Derek Chu piece of artwork. Um, Christopher Condon, G. Willow Wilson. I am excited for this one. And you know it's going to be, because it's a Marvel Black, White, and Blood, a series of incredible creative teams on each issue. So I'm in. I guess I'm in. Absolutely. And then I got to show off this Joshua Cassera cover right there because that is as Halloween as it gets. Perfectly timed for release in October. This is when is it? October. There is no Muppets on Marvel Black, White, and Blood and Guts. That is a weird sentence to say. But you know what? There is a Muppets cover on. Scroll down a little bit to the Spider-Man and Wolverine. Yeah. No, I mean, like, I got to talk up Power Rangers Prime. It's been very interesting with the new Green Ranger. But I can mention Punisher the Red Band. We're still waiting on issue number 1 to hit out, I believe, this coming Wednesday. But a red label, red band Punisher still has a lot of potential with Benjamin Percy. Greg Pak even is returning to Planet Hulk, but it's not set in the modern day. It goes back to the early days of Sakaar. So there's that. But the thing that I think we need to talk about is this Spider-Man Wolverine cover. It needed to be talked about. Perhaps one of the best covers of this week. I don't know how it didn't end up in the top 10. Look at Greg Land taking our Swedish chef right back to the 1980s Wolverine style. There it is, Kyle. I mean, all right, Kyle, this is your realm. Talk Muppets. Talk Swedish chef to me. Here's the one thing I have to point out. I never realized in my life until Greg Land did this. Did you know the Swedish chef was married? I did not catch that until now. I mean, it has Carrie Andrews interior artwork. You can't go wrong there. There it is. Berserker Rage. If you guys didn't miss Spider-Man 94 this week, you definitely going to want to get your orders in for Spider-Man 94 issue number 2. If you did miss it, go to your store and grab Spider-Man 94, continuing that classic cartoon series that many of us loved. Wow, 30 years ago. Um, so there it is. We have some continuation of Strange New Worlds, a lot of fun in Star Trek. Well, Star Wars has got the Han Solo Hunt for the Falcon. If you were ever wondering how the Falcon could have possibly got lost by Chewie and Han, this is the tale that will tell it and set you up for just how Rey is going to find the vehicle that gets her off Jakku. Uh, things happen. But things like that wouldn't happen in Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. If you have not watched this Disney Plus cartoon, that is the greatest Star Wars piece for all ages. I loved watching it with my son as he was developing, and now he can still enjoy it at 9 years old. And I can still enjoy it at way too old to admit. This is a fun series. I love that they have actually got big name Star Wars novelists to write episodes like Cavan Scott. So it ties directly in with the High Republic. And it also just has some of the cutest characters imaginable, like Nubs, that ever lovable blue bear of a Jedi. This is going to be the first time we get a proper graphic novel for it, including Daniel Jose Older's original free comic book day offerings of Star Wars Young Jedi. We get a brand new story as well from David Sheep, and it is only $9. $9 for a hardcover of fun Young Jedi adventures. So, yeah, I we exist in an era of nostalgia, and we love passing on nostalgia, which isn't something you can logically do, on to the youth. But on that note, you ready for some nostalgia that's going to hit with a very 1970s twist? Strange Tales is back, but it is not going to be the Strange Tales you think. As a group of our young couples from Marvel, which would include the Runaways and Young Avengers, get together for a game of role play. Yes, the Marvel characters are doing some Dungeons and Dragons, but when their Dungeons and Dragons role playing and dice rolling leads to things coming to life like trolls and goblins, we have to bring in the big guns of magic. Scarlet Witch to start, Doctor Strange eventually. Jeremy Whitley has a brilliant concept that I cannot wait to see because I love the idea of getting Nico and let's see, there's Nico, Carolina, Teddy, Billy, all playing D&D. You have Scarlet Witch's son playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's a powerhouse of magicians and their significant others. I love the classic red Dungeons and Dragon uh, right off of Scarlet Witch's shoulder there. The D20 that they're all on very subtly there with a fancy skull critical fail one on there. Everything about this is awesome. This has yes. And in the opposite end, going back to all ages, we had the sci-fi all ages. Let's do the all ages thing that gets your kids to hang out in sewers. Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the modern TMNT animated series and film, finally breaks its way into comics with Mikey Levitt and Louis Joyce writing and drawing the book. Um, I gotta say, this was another one of those fun moments of pushing nostalgia onto my child, and I'm sure I'm not alone on this. I took my son to go see this movie a few years ago. I want to say 2 years ago. And I walked out of it thinking, it was okay. But my son all of a sudden developed a love for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, something I did back in the late 80s. And it was really great to see that moment, come back to me. So I am happy to buy him this comic. I think that, um, you know what I did? Yeah, yeah. A very fun modern take on the Turtles. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, give the movie a shot. Particularly enjoy it with a younger fan or potential fan, because I think that this is the Turtles that will speak to the new generation. All right, now let's do the stuff that potentially risks upsetting good Sir Kyle, as we jump ahead to more Age of Revelation. I want to remind everyone there's a lot of great books that we are skipping over because there's just not enough time. So check out PRH Comics to see everything on there. A lot of fun ones that, we can talk about. We just don't have the time. Some we can't talk about because it's too mature. But the big two that I need to stress are the World of Revelation, which is going to talk about how things got X years later into the state that it is. What happened to the Fantastic Four? Why is it that Wiccan and Hulkling are playing such a major role? How has Revelation taken over the world? This will give us a lot of great answers, and it is a combo of Ryan North and Al Ewing writing it with a few great covers. Meanwhile, in the weirdest twist of it all, you have to switch over to the X-Men Book of Revelation, written by Jed MacKay. So we can ask just why. Why did Revelation, when he took over the world, choose to make his base of operations Philadelphia? Sorry, Philly fans. I just don't know that I would ever choose, if I had the entire world to base my kingdom out of, that Philly would be the choice. But Jed MacKay will give us that answer in a wonderful story that places us a perspective just beside Revelation himself, and will perhaps open our eyes as to how the world fell apart in the book of Revelation. Kyle, you want to give it to us? I know you're waiting for it. No, okay. There it was. Yeah. So, will you be buying this book, Kyle? No, sounds like you won't. Okay. So, okay. But yep, World of Revelation and Age of Revelation, other great ones with some amazing covers. I'm not gonna lie, I love the Ghost Kitty Pryde cover there. I think that there's some awesome options in that Fantastic Four gone awry. So let your local comic shop know if these are ones you want to go. It is going to be a hard judgment as to who is diving all in with the Age of Revelation. But as we are running short on time, let's hop on over to lunardistribution.com to see all of the incredible DC, Image, Oni, Dynamite, and more. And we're going to start off with something absolutely evil. If you have been loving Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, or any of the other Absolute titles, this is the book for you. Absolute Evil is going to be a one shot that sets up more to come for the Absolute Universe. We're going to get introduced to some new Absolute heroes. Well, we see our Absolute villains of all of the titles: Ra's al Ghul, Veronica Cale, Eleanor Thrawn, Hector Hammond, and yes, the mysterious Joker, first hinted at in Absolute Batman #1. Prepare for an evil cabal. Al Ewing takes a swing on this one, and I am excited. This should be a huge one because, let's face it, if you're a store, your highest selling book right now probably has Absolute in the title and will likely continue with this one shot. A lot of great covers there, all each featuring our amazing villains. So it has me quite excited. I really like this Riley Rossmo one. Not that the Image wants to load up right now, but showing off all of the great villains. Let's see if any of this will cause it to show up. No, Lunar just not liking. There it is. Riley Rossmo. You can see a little bit of everything there. Brainiac, Vandal Savage, Bane, and more. So I think this is going to be yeah. I'm going to do a quick refresh, see if we can get Lunar Distribution to work with me a little bit more. There it is. Nope. We're gonna have some graphic. There it is. So I think we got it. Absolute Green Lantern, Absolute Superman continuing on. I mean, they're absolute, you know what you're going on at about 1 year in as they hit issues 12. Adventure Time brings us the Lich as Nick Wynn continues his awesome tale. This is part 2 of the current storyline. And look, Nick, who is the brilliant writer of Adventure Time, also does this phenomenal cover that is not loading up. There we go. Featuring the Lich. I love that classic homage to the title card of the episode that introduced the Lich. So, part 2 of Friends to the End. Adventures of Superman continuing on. We have Archie Halloween Spectacular. A lot of great books to make sure you check out lunardistribution.com. A big one we need to discuss is Author Immortal. Frank Barbary and Morgan Bream bring us a very interesting concept as Author Immortal deals with a mediocre artist or mediocre writer who has never really hit big. But when he's asked to take over the book series that he grew up loving after something had happened to the original author, he has the moment where he needs to step up, only to discover he's been sucked into the novel that he's writing along with its original author. It feels very Magicians. It feels very Lock and Key. I am excited about this concept. I'm not the hugest fan, I'm going to be honest, of Morgan Bean's artwork, but I'm hoping that the story concept will drive it. What are your thoughts on this, Kyle? You seemed excited on Author Immortal. Yeah. And who knows, perhaps a month from now, I will be telling you all I regret everything I said. Morgan Bean's art was phenomenal on it. One thing I can hear you, but what fair. So one thing I do need to regret my actions on was last week we were talking about Red Book, and I talked about Yuko Shimizu, who did this amazing cover. Now, Yuko Shimizu, as a name, is the name of the creator of Hello Kitty, who is an artist. I forgot there is another infamous Japanese American artist, Yuko Shimizu, who was the artist of many of the covers of Unwritten and is also the artist in the case of Red Book and this author Immortal. So my apologies to Yuko Shimizu for mixing you up with your fellow namesake of Yuko Shimizu who created Hello Kitty. I wanted to get that clarified. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, the artist of Hello Kitty is doing this book," because that's how I felt. It is the exact same name, exact same spelling, but not the exact same artist. So I do want to clarify that and show off Yuko Shimizu's incredible cover of the author Immortal. Batman continuing on from Matt Fraction. I hope you guys all managed to grab issue number 1 and loved it. Jorge Jimenez's art was amazing on there. I always want to point out these wonderful Rion Gonzalez covers that are the paper doll covers. This back cover is incredibly awesome looking. But as we continue on, the Demon Trilogy. If you have never read these Mike Barr and Dennis O'Neil classics, that would be the Birth of the Demon, the Bride of the Demon, and the Son of the Demon, which would also be the actual first appearance of Damian Wayne. This $50 hardcover will collect all 3 of those original 1980s graphic novels with essays by Mike Barr and Mark Hamill. Yes, the Joker voice himself, Mark Hamill. Really fun way. I own the original graphic novels, and I think I'm going to repurchase this hardcover for the Mark Hamill forward. Absolutely, and always. Yeah. A lot of great things on Lunar Distribution, but the biggest thing I can imagine talking about this week is DCKO. It is a knockout event about the King Omega. I got to be on a wonderful conversation with Joshua Williamson and Scott Snyder about this yesterday, and I have not been this sold on a book in ages. This has me more. I think the closest I ever came to this excited about a DC book was the Sinestro Corps War. This is awesome. It is everything you'd expect as the DC heroes go into a tournament of champions style battle, beat down, brutal. Only one man can survive. And it is actually firmly set in main continuity. Yes, the DC heroes will actually be killing each other in main continuity. It will tie in to Justice League, to Superman, and a number of other titles, and Scott Snyder comes swinging harder than he did in Absolute Batman. You heard me right. This is better than Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is amazing. This is somehow more amazing. When Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson a while back said, hey, we're going to do some things to make people want to read DC Comics, this is part of it. The Absolute line, some of the highest selling books out there right now. Many of you have read it. You know they're amazing. And if you took any risk on that, I am telling you, you need to go to your comic shop and tell them you want the risk on this. This is worth it. Superman with brass knuckles made of mini suns, battling it out. You have craziness in every page, some of the coolest fights, some of the most insane moments. I wish I could just spoil this entire issue for you. It is so amazing. But all I can tell you is you don't want it spoiled. You want to read this. You need to read this. I cannot stress it enough. DCKO, go out, pre-order this. This is huge. You're going to want every part of this event. You need this. Indeed, it is. There are blind bags that were FOC'd last week. I wish that I could have known that this week, what I know now, because, oh my God, I didn't order enough. I ordered a huge amount, and I was regretting it as I placed the order. And now I can tell you I didn't order enough. This book is going to be better than Absolute. And I wish I could tell you all some of the things I know about it. But if you're reading the Absolute books, you will want to read this. You need to read this. This is amazing. If you read the DC All in One Shot, this is where you're going to get some closure. This is all just phenomenal. Some absolutely stunning and great covers. Daniel Warren Johnson doing the wrestling. In fact, if you're a wrestling fan, you might not only want that Daniel Warren Johnson, but there's AEW crossover covers on each of the 4 issues. First one has Lobo taking on. There it is. See, I knew I could rely on Kyle for wrestling facts. Oh, does it? Okay, yeah. But Dan Mora doing a great job on that. Yeah, I mean, and Dan Mora doing some great covers. You guys are gonna lose it. You guys are gonna lose it when you read DCKO. I wish there were things I could say that wouldn't just be spoilers bleeding out of my mouth if I opened it. If you guys have been loving Pug's 3D Marvel books, Deadpool, Circle Chase, I always forget this is Fabian Niceza and Joe Mad. You know, it makes me want to actually go drag my copy out and reread it, but I'll wait and reread it in 3D. How about the first appearance of Clayface at an affordable price? There are traditional foil and blank versions available. Then, of course, we had Disavowed after that long and wonderful conversation with Josh Blaylock about it. This book is another one that will drop your jaw. Much more mature than DCKO. DCKO is not a mature book. It is high octane action. This is high octane action that pushes the limits with absolutely rated R material like The Boys. This one is awesome and will leave your jaw on the floor. Both books, the D's this week, ooh, they are amazing. There are some big ones. Absolute Evil, TCKO, Disavowed, a lot of fun things. A lot of great covers on all of those titles. Definitely reach out to your store and see if they're going to be getting those amazing ratio variants on books like Disavowed, because they won't be cheap, but they'll be worth it. We have a lot of delightful continuing titles, things like Exquisite Corpses from Tiny Onion getting new reprints, which means new bags with new cards. But here's one I am excited to talk about. It's been on FOC before, but it's back on FOC. It's the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, Times of No Money and Other Follies. Kyle, I know you're like me. You always love those fabulous Furry Freak Brothers from Last Gasp. Okay, that is very interesting. But yeah, Gilbert Shelton back on Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, or rather back is collecting those classic tales. Um, we've had this re-FOC from Fantagraphics, $25. A great way to dive in because you're not going to find most of those issues from the 70s at under $25 these days. Another big one I want to talk about is Cold Slither. If you're loving G.I. Joe, here's another G.I. Joe twist for you. I cannot tell if this is a real American hero plot. It's probably not a skybound traditional one, but Tim Seeley is bringing the greatest rock band ever back. And if you're not familiar with Cold Slither, you need to go back to your 1985 episodes of G.I. Joe, because Zartan and the Dreadnoks were put together as a rock band by Cobra to help fund Cobra. No joke, weirdest concept, total 1980s G.I. Joe cartoon moment. But they rocked. And this ridiculous concept of an episode of G.I. Joe that became a recurring joke or meme throughout the series and comics is getting an amazing standalone issue by Tim Seeley. I have to get it. I have to own it. It is so 1980s. It hurts. A lot of great covers available on that, I should point out. And
Let's see
then,
if that fixed my microphone problems.
all right, I can still hear you, Kyle. For those of you guys looking for a great all ages book that everyone will love, something to replace the new Harry Potter for the new era, Gotham Academy is back. If you've read Gotham Academy, you know it, you love it, you're a big fan of maps. But if you haven't, here's your chance, because Gotham Academy First Year plays as a prequel to the Gotham Academy series, while also being an intro to all of it, as it's the first year. Carl Keschel, Brendan Fletcher, and Becky Cloonan are back for this amazing book, giving us our first year of boarding school at Gotham Academy with all of Silverlock, Maps, and the rest of our favorite students. It literally is Harry Potter in Gotham City. It is such a fun book. I cannot wait. And if you have not checked it out, I recommend giving it a shot. Some amazing covers by Carl, Dustin the Wind, Sweeney Boo, and more. Really just feel we are having internet issues with this live stream. But I don't know if Kyle's mic is back, but I'm certain he would love to talk about Justin Jordan's new Image title, or Mad Cave title, my apologies. Gunpowder Profits, Death in Texas. It's going to be a crazy out there 5-issue miniseries.
Yeah, this is one of those things about people who, one of those stories about people who do things for money, if you know what I mean. You got a problem with somebody. Well, for the right amount of money, you don't have a problem with them anymore. Kind of situation. So the idea here is that you have this sort of West Texas sort of, think about the kind of people there doing things again for money, doing things that other people wouldn't do. And this comes with a really high body count. It's kind of like a grindhouse horror. I read the first 4 pages before the show. I've got the PDF from Mad Cave, and I'm very excited to see what Justin Jordan does, because this is going to turn into some sort of supernatural, some sort of sci-fi, some sort of monstery kind of goodness. So I'm just excited to see where they go with this one.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I think it's definitely up there in line for any fans of things like Eric Powell's work. But I'm all for it. Justin Jordan has never let us wrong. Here is the huge one, and a crossover you never expected. Harley Quinn x Elvira. Written by the great team that brought us Harley Quinn for many years, Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti. Amanda's even doing the interiors on this phenomenal book. I could not be more excited. The Mistress of the Dark and the Joker's crazy ex slash the significant other of Poison Ivy slash the true hero of Gotham. There are a million great covers on this. This is going to be fun. It is a dynamite release. So you're getting everything from Joseph Michael Linsner and Ben Caldwell, Mark Spears, as well as Chad Harton and Amanda Connor. This is a masterpiece with a million dynamite covers. I'm loving it. I am loving this. So expect a good amount of attention on these books.
When they announced this, I didn't expect to get as excited for it as I did.
Yeah.
But there's also like a level of, I'm really excited to see what happens when you like throw Ivy into the mix here with them. Like, how is Ivy going to react to all of this? How is that going to affect her relationship with Harley? What does that mean for Elvira? There's a lot of layers here that could be very fun.
Indeed. Yeah, and a lot of covers to go along with it. Another one, if you missed out on Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, that was a really fun out there comic. Very much in manga-esque style, and in no way what you would expect. But if you were a fan of things like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or the like, I think this one will be right up your alley. I know there was quite some talk for a while about Disney Plus doing a TV series for it. I don't know where things are with that, but one way or another, a great comic. You'll see there are a number of really cool variants that were exclusives from Comic-Con making their way out through Titan, as well as Shubina, who's been doing some amazing covers through Massive, doing a Massive Select heavy metal magazine. These are not going to be cheap covers, but if you want it, they're worth talking to your local comic shop to see if they can get. Now, here is perhaps the most unique comic I have ever seen. Ice Cream Man, the Mortal Coil Shuffle Card Set Special is going to be a story done in trading cards. Cards that look like everything from Magic the Gathering to 1990s collectible trading cards. This is a 55 card playing card set with stories. How they'll be read, I don't know. How this will work, I have no clue. It will only have one printing, no second printing, no reprinting. So get your orders in ASAP if you want to get it. All 55 cards come in a box. This is going to be the most unique comic I think that will ever come out until everyone thinks it's the craziest selling thing in the world and it becomes the new blind bags. But it is done entirely by the traditional Ice Cream Man team of W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo. And yeah, this is going to be crazy. This is going to be crazy. Like, I mean, what's your take on this, Kyle?
I don't know what to think. I'll be real honest. I'm with you. I don't know how this is going to read. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know. Is this just a gimmick, or is this something that could actually be cool for comics? And I hate to worry that it's going to be a gimmick on something as cool as Ice Cream Man.
Yeah. I mean, Ice Cream Man has long since pushed the line in a million different ways. I am all to try it out, though. I will be 100% buying a deck of the Mortal Coil. So, for those of you guys excited about DCKO who haven't been keeping up on the DC books, this is your chance. Justice League The Omega Act is a one-shot by Joshua Williamson, that will get you all caught up on everything since DC All In. This will give you all the updates, everything you need to know about what has been going on with Booster Gold, with the Justice League and Superman, with Darkseid and more. This is the prologue to DCKO. And for $5.99, it is a thick steal that I recommend grabbing. Absolutely amazing covers. Not that any of them want to load, but you can see them right here, or you can follow along at lunardistribution.com to see them. We are going to be just full of technical difficulties this week, it seems. Why wouldn't it be? But please take a look at lunardistribution.com so you can see all these amazing, amazing books that are coming out. There's everything coming back for me. A lot of incredible covers. We continue the pumpkin spicy covers on Poison Ivy. Not that you can see them right there, but I assure you they're worth going to lunardistribution.com to see, because Nathan Zerdy doing a spicy Poison Ivy piece is always worthy of attention. There you can see it. Beautiful, beautiful cover right there. Absolutely adore it. So, what is the next big thing we want to talk about? Well, it is the return to Rook Exodus. After 6 amazing issues from Ghost Machine, Jeff Johns, and Jason Fabok bring us back to the planet of Exodus with the Incredible Wardens as we dive back into the second arc of Rook Exodus number 7. It has been quite the gap, but everyone is excited. For those of you looking to catch up, the trade paperbacks are about to get restocked at Lunar Distribution, so retailers will be able to restock if they don't already have it on our shelves. But this is going to be an awesome new arc for Rook and the rest of the Wardens. I am hyped on it. I am so bummed that Jason Fabok couldn't join us on the show earlier today. Hopefully everything is going all right in his life, and we will continue having an unbelievable stream of new Rook Exodus comics. I can certainly tell you that things look good. I've already had the chance to read this opening issue, and it is on point with everything you love from the first 6. So, really, really great. A big one I want to point out is the C covers that Cale New are doing connect issues 7 through 12, the entire second story arc, and you're not going to want to miss out on those. Though I think, Kyle, your favorite is definitely the Fabok face, or helm piece, right?
Yeah, I just want a helmet that looks like that.
Yeah,
Like,
awesome.
I would wear that everywhere.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having any of the helmets the Wardens wear. The ability to interact with animals like that just seems kind of fun.
Danny, if you could put the helmet from the B cover of Rook Exodus 6 in the Threadless shop, I would buy one.
That'll be the first thing Jeff works on, is getting the helmets made for everyone. All right. If you missed out on Sonya Reborn, I got to point this out again. Christopher Priest and Alessandro Miracolo have brought Red Sonja to the modern era with Sonya Reborn, and it is incredible. I am loving all the covers. I am loving every bit of writing, all the interiors. Go grab issue number 1 off stands right now and get an order in for issue number 2. This has been an amazing start to what I hope will be an amazing series.
Not helmet shirts, actual helmets. I want headgear.
There it is. Ton of Spawn and Speed Racer coming out. More Star Wars fun. But we obviously got to talk up Stitch. Issue number 1 is on stands at your local comic shop right now. And we get even more tales with everyone's favorite project gone awry. And well, Ohana means family. When you yet have learned Ohana, you are getting just crazy Stitch destruction. I love Solo Stitch so much. This series has been great. Greta Zella's artwork is awesome. Connor Ratliff has been doing an amazing job writing this. I absolutely adore this book.
Let's have an actual talk. Who's the more famous space alien, Superman or Stitch?
I mean, wow, that was. I think unquestionably it's Superman, but Stitch has, I think, made a equally large amount of box office gross to Superman. I think in all of his films. That's a weird thought to think of. All right, Street Fighter fans, how about a one-shot focusing on everyone's favorite hairy Russian wrestler, Zangief, gets a one-shot. I mean, I've been loving this revival of Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, and more that Udon's been bringing, and each of these issues has just been perfect. So let's hope it continues on with Zangief. Big one, Thundercats continuing on with issue 19. Thundercats continuing on with the Powerpuff Girls in the finale to the epic crossover I never knew I needed, and I'm so thankful I have. And then I think the last one, sorry about that, I want to talk about is the second printing of Invisible Monsters, James Tynion IV and Danny, bringing us this awesome tale of one of the most often overlooked or unseen Universal monster. A lot of great ones this week. Sorry for all the technical difficulties. So make sure you check out lunardistribution.com and prhcomics.com for all the comics on FOC this Monday, September 8th. I think it is time we get to the top 10. What do you think about that?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, Kyle. All right. First off, the honorable mention, I got to point out, because this is a great all ages book that I think will hit like none other. Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. This is an amazing one with Daniel Jose Older, who is one of the key architects of the High Republic. So you know he has a way of masterfully interweaving this to modern Star Wars continuity while still doing a great job because he's a great all ages writer. And David Sheet getting us brand new story in there that you won't find on the episodes of Disney Plus. Hitting to our top 10, we're going to open it up with R.L. Stein's Hello Halloween. You got to love that Fraser Irving cover right there. It is sexy. It is haunting. It is everything we want this book to be. Strange Tales. It's Dungeons and Dragons played by Marvel characters. Look, I read a comic where Spider-Man and the other Marvel heroes just played poker back in the way of Spectacular Spider-Man, and I love that. Now imagine them playing D&D, way cooler than poker. This is going to be fun. Beautiful cover by Bailey Underwood. I love the usage of the D20 in the background.
I'd completely forgotten about that decade when everyone was obsessed with poker.
Yeah. G.I. Joe Cold Slither. Look at that Steve Beach cover. That is the most 80s metal imaginable. You almost could believe that's not Zartan and the Dreadnoks. It feels so poison, doesn't it? But Steve
It really
Beach,
does.
Yeah. Steve Beach did an amazing job. I love the Warlock guitar and the keytar. Everything about this is great. Tim Seeley, just a master G.I. Joe fan. So I'm certain this is going to be fun. Just ignore the design of the logo. It's as 80s as it can be, but totally misreadable.
Yeah. Listen, if you're designing trade dress for comics, you really, really need to look at what letters your letters look like so that they don't look like words you can't say on the internet.
All right. And appropriately following an actual G.I. Joe book is Disavowed, the book that starts out feeling very G.I. Joe-like, but I guarantee you, the twists will hit you like a train. A Mack truck would do less damage to your jaw than the drop you'll have. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but 4 times in this issue. And I love that Tim Seeley, the writer of Cold Slither, did this homage to G.I. Joe #1, the J. Scott Campbell cover, oddly enough, that Josh Blaylock wrote back in 2001. So another fun thing, when IDW adapted that 2001 G.I. Joe series, you know what it was called in trade? G.I. Joe Disavowed. Just tying it all together. Tim Seeley, Josh Blaylock, G.I. Joe Disavowed. Everything blends together in some crazy conspiracy that might also fit in theme with this awesome comic. I I'm not even the hugest G.I. Joe fan. Yes, it's crazy. I know Cold Slither. Look, it was the 80s. I had cartoons to watch. But I'm not even the biggest G.I. Joe fan. I am super in on Disavowed. All right. Next up, Gotham Academy, first year. Love that Carl Kessel cover. We have some, it's crazy how we have some very mature books and some very nostalgic 80s driven books in the top 10. And then we have some delightfully all ages books, which Gotham Academy will be. And I think this is one you can hand to any young reader or any fan of like Harry Potter-esque school drama tales. This is going to be a fun one. Justice League, the Omega Act special, a must-read for any DC fans, even those of you guys who've been reading everything DC to get you prepped for DC KO. I love this Q Young Yom cover. Q Young Yom has had multiple times in our top 10 this year, doing these stunning DC covers, and this our Supergirl of the Dark Legion, Dark Justice League, if you will. So, fun one there. Obviously, this is a Kyle influence of Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson's Stag variant, the Stag helmet on Rook Exodus 7. Get me off the screen. Let's see all of that Dan Panosian beauty on the Punisher. Just keep in mind, if you love this cover, every single panel of every single interior page is that incredible Dan Panosian quality. Cannot wait to see what Jimmy has written up, and Dan is going to be drawing like that. Let's get to our top three, or our top two. Sorry. Oh, did we lose me? Absolute Evil. The one shot. I mean, this is going to be big because it's Absolute. All the Absolute books, Selbug, are must own. But then you get Veronica Cale putting Absolute Wonder Woman, who is the GOAT of the Absolute characters, into a headlock. And Diana looks like she is struggling. That is a beautiful piece from Gerald Perel. This is my cover for Absolute Evil. Now let's do the big one, the number one. Drum roll, everyone. It's DCKO. It's not even one of the crazy variants. I got to be honest with you. I mean, the A cover is an acetate cover by Javier Fernandez. So that is a crazy cover. You're going to get that incredible Javi Fernandez cover art as the same as the incredible interior artwork. But I just need to stress this. This one doesn't even have anything to do with cover. This is going to be the book. This will be the hottest book. When everyone talks about it, it will have sold out everywhere, just like the Absolute titles did. Every store that thought, man, I overordered on Absolute Batman and clearly didn't, as it goes to 10 printings, you're going to do the same on DCKO. Whatever you think you are ordering that's too much, it's not enough. And every one of you who isn't pre-ordering this with your local comic shop, you are going to regret it if you're not the one racing to the front door of your comic shop to get that book the day it comes out. This will be a sellout. Whether it sells out a week or two late or not, this book will sell out. This book will be big. This will be the water cooler conversational topic. Every message board, I am just talking outdated terminologies. This will be the social media trending topic of the week. DCKO. Scott Snyder is swinging grand slams lately. And this is his highest hitter yet. Every part of this, amazing. Who dies in the first issue? You are going to be shocked. How it comes about, it is going to blow your mind. Where our heroes are and how they go. How are they going to get that Omega energy? This is a phenomenal comic that you absolutely cannot sleep on if you've ever been a DC fan. And even if you're not a DC fan, this is the book that I strongly believe will make you one. DCKO #1 needs to be on everyone's poll. Everyone's poll. Reach out to your local comic shop and get that order in. All right, Kyle. What else are we looking forward to on the EXP this week?
Well, Nick will have his original art show tonight at 7, as always, and then Nancy will be on at 9. And then next week we have a bunch of normal shows, ironically, but a lot less me next week, so that'll be fun. But be looking, we have 2 new shows debuting very, very soon, including one that could start as early as next Wednesday. So just keep your eye out for things here on The Experience that might be, interesting. And follow us on social media and sign up for our mailing list. That's where you're going to hear all of the things.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We will be back. We will be back next week. I don't believe you'll have me, but you'll have the incredible Kyle.
Well, we got to figure out if you're going to have me either, because I'm supposed to be at SPX. So we're going to have to figure out what's going on with this show next week. But something will be here, and someone will be going over Final Order Cutoff. Whether it's me and Miss Jen, or whether it's me and Matthias on Thursday night not knowing anything, we'll figure that out, and we'll let you know.
All right. Thank you guys all. Tune in next week and check out all the other awesome shows on the XP. And thank you for joining us. Get your orders in to your local comic shop ASAP.